The pharmaceutical industry has long championed itself as a beacon of innovation, responsible for developing life-saving drugs and advancing the frontiers of modern medicine. But beneath this narrative lies a quieter, more cynical engine of profit: the proliferation of Me Too drugs, medications that offer little to no significant therapeutic advantage over existing drugs, yet are marketed as novel breakthroughs. These drugs are often created by making minor molecular tweaks to existing compounds, just enough to secure a new patent, extend exclusivity, and justify premium pricing. While not overtly dangerous or fraudulent, the Me Too drug phenomenon exemplifies how the industry routinely prioritizes financial gain over genuine medical progress, draining healthcare systems and misdirecting scientific attention in the process. Me Too drugs are not technically copies. They differ slightly in chemical structure or pharmacokinetics, but they often function in much the same way as earlier, well-established medications. Instead of addressing unmet medical needs or offering dramatic improvements in safety, efficacy, or patient outcomes, they tend to occupy the same therapeutic class, with only marginal differences. These differences are often clinically insignificant to patients, but commercially vital to manufacturers. Once approved, they are promoted as innovative, superior, or more tolerable, usually without head-to-head evidence showing meaningful benefit over the older, often cheaper alternatives. This strategy is not about improving public health, it's about preserving and extending market share. When a blockbuster drug nears the end of its patent life, companies frequently rush to develop and patent a slightly altered version. By the time the original drug goes off patent and generic competition drives prices down, the manufacturer already has a new and improved version on the market, still protected and priced like a novel treatment. This practice has been especially common in lucrative categories like statins, proton pump inhibitors, antidepressants, antihypertensives, and antipsychotics. Examples include Nexium following Prilosec, escitalopram, Lexapro following citalopram, Celexa, and desvenlafaxine, Pristic, following venlafaxine, Effexor. To fuel sales, these drugs are aggressively marketed not only to physicians but also directly to consumers in countries like the United States, where such advertising is permitted. Glossy campaigns emphasize minor advantages such as fewer side effects or once-daily dosing, while implying superiority that often isn't substantiated by independent data. Physicians, inundated by reps and promotional materials, may prescribe newer drugs out of habit or perceived pressure, even when older, generic alternatives are equally effective. Patients, influenced by advertising or trusting their doctor's recommendation, rarely realize they're paying more for a drug that may not offer any real improvement. This cycle has staggering financial implications. Me Too drugs help manufacturers avoid the steep drop in revenue that follows generic entry, a phenomenon known as the patent cliff. By slightly modifying a molecule, repackaging it as innovation, and securing a new patent, companies can continue to charge brand name prices for what is essentially a recycled therapy. In many cases, these newer drugs are priced significantly higher than the original versions, even though development costs are lower, because the underlying research and safety profile have already been largely established. Meanwhile, truly novel drugs, those that tackle new targets, treat previously untreatable conditions, or significantly improve outcomes, remain relatively rare. Despite industry rhetoric about the high cost of drug development, a disproportionate amount of our backslash and de-spending is funneled into reformulating or repurposing existing drugs. This not only inflates healthcare spending but also crowds out investment in more daring, potentially transformative innovation. From a business perspective, it's safer and more profitable to produce a guaranteed market success with minimal clinical risk than to gamble on a new class of drug that might fail in trials. Even regulatory systems often do little to challenge this practice. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, for example, does not require that new drugs be superior to existing ones, only that they work better than a placebo. This allows Me Too drugs to enter the market without proving added value, while still benefiting from the regulatory halo of novelty. Public and private insurers, lacking the power or the data to resist, often cover these drugs at high prices, further entrenching the cycle. The most insidious part of the Me Too drug economy is its subtlety. There is no overt deception, no falsified data, no lethal product, only the calculated manipulation of systems designed to reward innovation, now repurposed to reward replication. The costs are diffuse and hard to trace, Higher insurance premiums, greater out-of-pocket expenses for patients, and a healthcare system increasingly burdened by unnecessary spending. Worse, it erodes the social contract between the pharmaceutical industry and the public. The promise was that high drug prices were the price of cutting-edge science. But when prices remain high for drugs that bring nothing new to the table, that promise rings hollow. In the end, Me Too drugs serve as a quiet indictment of a system where the appearance of progress is often more lucrative than actual progress. The public is encouraged to believe that each new pill is a step forward, when in reality many are simply sideways, offering little more than a new name, a new price, and a new patent. This is not just wasteful, it's a betrayal of the urgent medical needs that remain unmet, the patients who deserve better, and the scientific resources that should be spent chasing real breakthroughs rather than gaming the system.